And then we will have a Q&A for our panelists and a Brave Communities updates for the next year and what we're going to be doing.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophia and Bella is my co-facilitator for tonight. Our other 2021-2022 Brave Ambassadors are Yorlandi, Haley, Jalen, Olivia, Allie, and Kimberly.
And then our wonderful co-facilitators, Farmer Nancy and Christina.
Through this program, we've been focusing on 4 things: building leadership and communication skills, engaging in reflective dialogue around personal, cultural, and racial consciousness, building a brave community of civic-oriented peers, and collaborating, designing, and implementing multiple community-focused projects promoting peer engagement for social change.
So this is my presentation about food injustice and mass incarceration. So yeah. So what is food injustice? Food injustice is when less fortunate communities don't have access to healthy and affordable options for enough food that should be reaching all of each community. So there is not healthier options and there is not affordable options that reach the whole community. And in each family, there may not be people who are getting enough food, things like that. And this is my newspaper collage. So I have 2 comparing facts. And so you can see the pictures of our mom is serving 12 years and incarcerated mothers holding their kids. So in 2017, about 40 million people struggled with hunger and a stable source to find food. People often struggle, a lot of people, with finding a stable flow and influx of food to reach all of their family, all of their community, all of their households. And then in May of 2021, nearly 150,000 mothers spent Mother's Day away from their children and families. So mothers are not being able to connect with their family and with their children on Mother's Day for reasons of mass incarceration. And the connection between the two: when mothers' rights are on the line and are being threatened with imprisonment, it is a vital freedom and right that is being taken away. Just like when healthy and affordable food options are being taken away, it will not be feasible because without the right resources, it is harder to survive. And mothers are not being there to monitor what their kids are eating, how much their kids are eating, if they're getting a constant source of the right food and the healthy food that they need. So yeah.
All right, I'm Sophia again, and this is my project connecting a fact pair comparing food injustice and mass incarceration. So my collage was supposed to show the cycle that occurs when you are able to afford food and resources. So when you have access to plentiful, healthy food and you have that foundation to be able to focus on other things, you don't have to worry about food. You can save money, focus on your job, afford any medical expenses, and you also get more money, access to more resources. So it continues to build and grow in a cycle. Food service workers and people who work in the food system, despite working with food and providing it to other people, often aren't able to afford those same things for themselves. This relates to the first part of my fact pair, which talks about how the average farm family earns 25% less than the federal poverty averages, and the average food stamp benefit is only $4 per day per person. So people who work in the food industry are denied opportunities and robbed of that stable foundation that the cycle depends on. So instead, when they don't have a steady income, steady access to food, water, and other essential needs, it builds in the opposite direction in its own kind of cycle, which is how so many incarcerated people were people in poverty who couldn't afford those resources, which connects to the second part of my fact pair about how prior to their incarceration, incarcerated people earned 41% less than non-incarcerated people of similar ages. So instead of being provided resources, they're left on their own and almost punished instead of being helped. And I'm going to pass it over to Haley for her project.
Hi, I'm Haley, and my project's on food justice too. So my collage is I did mine online, and it shows how underpaid the workers are and stuff like that. So workers for the food systems are majorly underpaid, and these underpaid jobs include farming and waiting. Farmers are paid 25% less than the federal poverty wages, and waiters' average pay is $2.13 at most tipping restaurants. Most minimum wage jobs won't hire after being incarcerated, and the incarceration pictures after being incarcerated, most people aren't able to find steady jobs that will pay enough to support a healthy lifestyle. And so they won't have access after being incarcerated to high education that will give them a good background for a steady job. And after incarceration, the median income is 41% less than non-incarcerated individuals. Thanks.
Now
Next,
we will into Jalen's presentation.
Hi, I'm Jalen. I'm one of the Brave Ambassadors. I'm presenting something that me and another Brave Ambassador who unfortunately can't make it, her name's Allie, something that we worked on. And so we made a presentation on empowering youth voices in Sped. So from now on to this presentation, Sped stands for special education. And we gave a presentation on how to empower Sped students at the Educators in Solidarity On conference. So you can click to the next one. Anyway, so because Allie couldn't be here, I took some clips from our original discussion, just kind of highlight clips to show what we talked about and both of our perspectives on things. So yeah, here there's and Christina helped lead the discussion, which was very helpful. And she asked the questions and helped run the interview. So it was, yeah.
Hi, I am Allie Owens, and I'm a freshman at Anderson High School. And for personal reasons and just ever since I can remember, I've been really passionate about Sped, and I'm really just focused on how we can make the education system better and more inclusive.
I'm Jalen Sue. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm a junior at Lhasa High School. I think special education has the ability to empower and support so many people. So I'm really passionate about making SPED more inclusive and normalizing neurodivergency in all communities, but especially within schools.
Hi, I am Allie Owens, and I'm a freshman at Anderson High School, and
Sorry, here we have what we talked about. So you'll see clips from most of these talking points, but some of them aren't there. So I just wanted to say, so we talked about what is neurodivergence, the definition, what it means to us, what are some challenging and what are some empowering experiences for students in special education. A lot of these I found were very similar to just any student, but there were a good amount that were specific to kids in special education. We talked about who inspired us in the neurodivergent community. Unfortunately, for time's sake, this didn't make it into here, but I know for both of us, our answers were our little brothers. Both of our little brothers are in middle school and in special ed. And we talked about how in each of their own way, the things that they're able to do and challenges that they're overcome is really inspiring to us. And then we talked about what an inclusive and empowering learning community looks like. That part's in the show, see that. And then what action steps educators, so teachers, advocates, administration, whatever, what steps they can take to help empower youth voices in special ed. So here's some highlights from our conversation on that. Yeah, kind of the way I understand neurodivergence is really just it's a thing that describes any like neurological traits, functions, or like behaviors that different from like the norm. The norm being like the majority of like neurotypical people, but it's neurodivergence, like it's not a bad thing. It doesn't like being different doesn't make anyone less capable or less intelligent. It just means that someone's brain might work a little different than the neurotypical majority. And then I think when you're considering like neurodivergence, it's also important to understand neurodiversity, because that's just a trait of any like naturally occurring community. Like within any group of people, not everyone's brains work the same. Like we are human beings and everyone's different. So I think it's just important to understand the place that neurodivergence has in every single community.
Allie, how would you define neurodivergence?
Jalen explained it pretty well, but for me, I think neurodivergence is kind of like a new term that I've heard, because I really like it a lot more because it's more broad, instead of just putting all people like sped people into like a certain like one category or different categories. So yeah, I think it's just someone who thinks differently from what is considered neurotypical or normal. I really like the term neurodivergence because it's really important not to like use terms like different or like not normal, because I don't really think that's accurate, because yeah, and it's just kind of insensitive. So yeah, to me, it's just someone who thinks a little differently, doesn't make them any less smart or like competent at all. So
Yeah, kind of the way I understand neurodivergence is really just it's a way.
one is like not recognizing different behaviors or just ignoring them and choosing not to acknowledge them, because you might not want to like face what you might see as challenges that might come with having a special education student in your classroom. So that is one of the challenges I've seen. Another one that is really important not to do is lowering the level of work that you give special education students. And I've seen that a lot, because by allowing them not to meet the expectation that the other students have to meet, you're not giving them an opportunity to grow and kind of branch and learn like you allow all of the other students to do. And then the last one, which is kind of really sad that I even have to mention this, but it does occur. And that's like bullying and making fun of special education students. Believe it or not, I have seen many adults and people in authority do this as well. So not only like doing it by themselves, but contributing to the voice of the students who are insensitive to the differences of SPED students. So those are some of the challenges. And like, if I could give a list of things not to do, that's probably what I would say. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Allie. How about you, Jalen?
Yeah, I definitely have experience in seeing a lot of the things that Allie described, and also situations where teachers, and whether in the language or deliberately of what they're saying, don't include, like the language is like inherently exclusive, and it doesn't, it's not exactly mindful of the fact that like maybe not every student acts that way or does this thing or whatever. And kind of big generalizations like that, I think, can make neurodivergent or SPED students feel kind of excluded or like not kind of isolated from that like majority that they're talking to. And then some of the common challenges that I kind of made a list of was like connecting with peers. So whether that's in like group projects or things like that. So I think it's always really helpful when teachers like, some teachers will be like, okay, here's a group project, you can pick groups or I'll assign groups, or like you can do it on your own if you want to, just come talk to me. Like having teachers be like open and accepting like that makes students feel a lot safer, especially in situations where they're uncomfortable. And then there's definitely kind of the typical things with like learning pace or keeping up with assignments, especially for students with like more learning disability focused challenges. But like Ali said, like diminishing the work isn't always the solution to that. There are other ways like helping, like maybe helping the student learn a different way or helping them with study techniques or giving them more support in that way so that they can still complete the work that every other student does rather than like just like taking it away, because that way they can like grow and learn new skills that will help them be more successful. And then my last one was kind of like just the stigma and misinformation that surrounds like divergence and intelligence. Because I remember even from like elementary school, like the kids who were in special ed, like everyone viewed them as like annoying or stupid or all these other like derogatory things that weren't true at all. It was just because maybe they spoke different or they could like they spoke or communicated differently, or because like they didn't respond to social cues in a typical way, like things like that. And I think just talking about neurodivergence more and getting rid of that kind of like don't ask, don't tell kind of idea around it, and just like normalizing all of that would be really helpful. For hopefully you should just be able to like hit the arrows and it should play on its own. Maybe that'll help with the technical whatever. I think some empowering experiences would be like having your talents or skills or like abilities being recognized by teachers. Just, I mean, any student wants to know that what they're doing is good or that they did something right or that they thought about something in a cool way or things like that. And having like creativity or other abilities being valued as just as much as like test taking abilities or grades or things like that. Because all students have different abilities, like I was saying before. So like, you know, maybe someone's really creative and really artistically talented while someone else is like really good at memorizing stuff, and they're like, or they're really good at like numbers or history or whatever. And just having other things be valued and celebrated just as much as like grades and book smarts. And then another like empowering experience I think is just like how like connecting with your peers and other like strong and equally passionate sped students, and just like feeling like you're part of a group and having that sense of like community and acceptance, um, is always very like empowering and supportive too. And then some strengths of sped students, honestly the way I think about it is just the same strengths that any neurotypical student can have. Like just because someone's neurodivergent doesn't mean that they can't do all the same things that neurotypical students can do, especially with like accommodations and all that. So just understanding that like we can succeed at the same things because like all people are different and have varying like abilities and skills. So being neurodivergent doesn't make you any less or any more than others.
Thanks, Jalen. How about you, Ali?
For me and what I've seen personally, it's really just the big things that to other people might seem as like very little things. Because personally for me, with my little brother who is on the autism spectrum, I've seen so many things that he's done that we were told that he would never be able to do. And this happens for many SPED students. They're told that they'll never be able to talk or hold a conversation, walk, eat on their own, like daily things. So like seeing them do these things in real life and in real time is just really always just makes me in awe, like every single day. And yeah, so just that and them doing things that were basically told to them would be impossible, and them doing that every day. And then kind of what Jalen was saying, something that does really empower me is when I see kids like at school in the SPEC community being accepted and who have found community and who have found people who might share the same experiences as them and people they can talk to. Yeah, that's just amazing, because that's also something that doesn't really happen often, because like I was touching on earlier, bullying is still very present and something that goes unnoticed. in the education system often. So yeah, I think just being able to see that in person is always.
I think some empowering
My vision would be to have the education system truly embrace the term inclusive education and all that it entails, because I've heard so many times we're an inclusive school, we accept all students, and then you are like me personally, like attending schools like that and just seeing that not occur in the day-to-day school life. So yeah, my vision would just probably be, kind of truly helping these SPED students be set up to be productive citizens in the world by, again, accepting them, helping them face their challenges, not ignoring, their behavior or even calls for help or stuff that you may not see. And of course, this is going to take like work and research and commitment and dedication from the education system, because it has been operating like the exact same way for centuries and not really had much change to it. And the change that has been had, it always has like a kickback on it, or it's always been fought. So just really, yeah, and just embracing and fixing the issues that are very present. So that is my vision.
How about you, Jalen?
My vision for the education system is just building a learning community that's really focused on just learning and having everyone feeling accepted and supported in that community, and really kind of like Ali was saying, like institutionalized like equity and inclusivity. Like, you can throw around those words and say that you like include everyone, or that you're open to all students and whatever, that students will be supported. But really, and I do think it'll take kind of a big like revamp of the education system, because so much of it just inherently works against neurodivergent students or students in special ed. But really focusing on like equity, so not equality wherein everyone gets the same stuff, because having gone to public school, a lot of public schools operate like that, and it leaves a lot of students struggling and kind of left behind, not being supported as they need to. But like equity within school, so that everyone gets the supports and the acceptance and the inclusion and the help and the accommodations or whatever that they need to succeed, so that everyone has a chance to, like I was explaining earlier, to grow and become productive members of society. And like, yeah, like that's what school's for. It's supposed to prepare students for the world and teach them the things that they need to know to go be like an adult. So like an equitable and inclusive learning community to me means being able to do that for every single student, regardless of their neurodivergence or neurotypical. Yeah, so I have three things. One of them would be getting to know people in the neurodivergent community and getting to know them like as people rather than like just their diagnoses or just their experience in SPED, like talking to them and learning about their experiences and who they are as people. And I think just when you know people, it makes it a lot easier to be like more sympathetic and understanding of that community. So just like talking to them, getting to know them, and just like making that effort to understand people who are different than you. And then the second thing would be kind of reflecting in on yourself, kind of like we've been doing this whole through this like conversation, but questioning like your own implicit biases about neurodivergency and thinking about your own beliefs surrounding like what it means to be successful and what it means to be capable, especially in an academic setting, and just kind of understanding where you are and continuing that like self-reflection and being aware of like how you view other people and maybe like what your instinctual like gut reaction is to different things, so that you can start to shape your own like beliefs and prejudices and make yourself more inclusive and more accepting of neurodivergent students. And then my third thing would be encouraging others to do those same reflections, whether that's like in the classroom or within like the staff at your school or whatever. But talking about neurodivergency publicly to help remove that stigma and having it just be something that like all teachers keep in mind, because I think having that understanding just like widely there would help a lot of students. And then having these conversations about neurodivergency and accommodations and special ed students, having those be more normalized, like in classrooms or department meetings or like teaching conferences, without those necessarily being set apart from other like typical dialogues, and without like targeting special ed students, because that would be uncomfortable and really unpleasant for them. But just having conversations about neurodiversity, just like any other topic, and normalizing it can help like really help challenge the negative beliefs and like ignorance surrounding special education, and would like help students in the end like feel more accepted and better supported. So those are my three things.
Thanks, Jalen. How about you, Allie?
Some ideas I have or action steps are incorporating more social and emotional learning into the curriculum, because I know that it is there, but it's kind of very textbook and very like, structured. And to be honest, like emotions and stuff like that comes with Sped students and everything isn't always like something that you can get straight out of a textbook. It's not, it's just, that's not really how it works. And then another tip that I have is creating a peer or buddying mentoring program for students and teaching those neurotypical students how to be supportive of students with special needs, instead of resorting to bullying and to teach students. Or even if you have kids at home who are neurotypical, just teach them that differences are truly what makes up a person, and that strengths come from differences and not similarities. That, and then my third one would be to have uncomfortable conversations, because they are needed for change. We're not going to get anywhere if you don't like tap into the things that or the conversations that you might not want to have about SPED and special education, inclusive education. All of that is just really important. So just overall, we just need to create more opportunities for students to be able to learn life skills that can ultimately help with their professional development. So
So I have three things. One of them would be getting to know people in the neurodivergent. So that was kind of the highlight of our conversation. And the whole thing, like we recorded it outside of the conference, but I really enjoyed the conversation, and I think a lot of really important stuff came up. And then Christina, maybe you can speak more to like what that actually looked like in the unconference, but ta-da.
Yeah, thank you, Jalen, and also Allie, who couldn't be here tonight, for taking the time to record your conversation so that we could share it with the educators.
We're going to pass it over to Yolandi and Kim now to explain their project.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Kimberly.
My name is Yolandi.
And our topic was improving the college readiness opportunities for minorities in New York City. And you might be wondering, why is this from New York City when the audience is not from New York City. And that's just because Yolandi and I are the only Brave ambassadors from New York City. And so we just chose this topic because it was really important to us.
The problem is that minority students in New York City public school don't get the same opportunities and education as those in private school and who happen to be white. For high school seniors specifically, the number of college counselors should increase because different schools have different amount of students and every student situation is different. And students should have the freedom to schedule meetings according to their schedule and have full support of their school to be successful in and throughout college.
So Yolandi and I decided to write a letter to the New York City Department of Education. And so we'll drop a link for you guys to actually read the letter. And I'll put 3 minutes on the clock. And then after those 3 minutes, we have questions about, the audience thoughts about this issue. So the 3 minutes are up. So Yolandi, you could go to the next slide. So the questions we have for you, the audience, are what are your thoughts on this and what stood out to you? And you could either unmute yourself or write it in the chat.
I think what stood out to me the most is the fact that you guys were actually able to notice that there weren't enough counselors. I think of all the things in the school for you to feel like you're lacking and there's something lacking for your education and for your growth, that you picked up that it was the counselors, and that so you're able to actually do the research to find out that that's something that really is hurting you. That's definitely something that stood out for me in the letter.
So I could read out some of the comments that are coming in. Elise, I hope I'm saying that right, said that students don't start hearing about college until junior year, and the number of counselors for the students is not enough. Lisa said the students at our high school are the same in having to keep up with schoolwork and significant family responsibilities, either childcare or earning to help with household expenses, not just a New York City issue. Yes, I agree with that. So if that's all, I think we can move to the next slide.
For a possible solution is make sure the letter reaches out to a DOE counselor or any form of administration from the DOE that can hear those out, have more college counselors in public school, and the DOE should provide more funds for college trips, college prep, college readiness courses for high schoolers.
Okay, so next steps. Number 1 is to spread awareness. Talking about the issue and educating others on this is a good start to let others know that this is a priority. Number 2, receive support from those around us. We need allies. People who share the same passion as us will help others be interested in taking action / making a change. And 3, include other schools / stakeholders in fixing the problem. The more the merrier. Let's help in making something happen. So thank you. That's the end of our presentation.
Next is a Q&A for all of our panelists. So if you guys just want to ask any questions, now is a perfect time.
Hi, ladies. This is Emlyn. Thank you all. Number one, thank you all so much for this wonderful presentations. Each topic was wonderful. Each presentation was great. Thank you for the co-facilitators, Farmer Nancy and Christina, and for everyone being here. My question is, of the, each of you, or pairs or triples of you did different topics. What were your most transformative experience? Like whether that's the learning part of it, the research part of it, the presentation part of it. Like what do you feel like kind of transformed your heart and mind with what you just experienced with your project?
Personally, I think for me, it was the research, just learning more about it and having, finding the 2 facts that I presented. The research really helped put my mind into it and put it really into perspective on what's going on, really.
For me, I think I had like my understanding of SPED and what I heard from friends and seen with my brother and my own experiences and all of that. And then just talking to Allie, who goes to a different school, and just hearing her stories and her experiences and her thoughts about it. Like, I think that like knowing what we both know and then seeing how those like compared to each other and how they were different, like the things we agreed on, and all of that was the most like transformative experience, like part of the experience for me.
For my part, I think personally, like I feel like not just the research, but actually like living through the problem, because our school, we have this thing that it was mentioned in the letter, it was called the College Access Room. That was founded like from the people who work at our school. Like the Department of Education did not offer it. And so that says a lot. And so we should have like more things like that founded and like created by the Department of Education of New York, and not just New York, but like all around the world. So, yeah.
For mine, I think finding the research and like learning how much like it actually affects everyone, like most people around the world. Like I didn't know that it was like affected that many people. So that's what was changed, like my perspective.
Yeah, I agree. For me, I think it was the learning about sort of the details and how big of a gap exists, and just more about that.
For me was writing in the letter about my personal experience, because like for me, I didn't realize the problem until we wrote about it. And like we're just like, for me and as an individual, like I'm grateful for the people that I have in my school, like the counselors that we have, but we don't realize that, oh, it is a problem and we need more people and more support in the problem.
And in the chat, we have the question for the ambassadors from New York: how did you learn about BRAVE, and how can we help spread the word to even more places?
I learned about BRAVE through a teacher. It was like in the summer of 2020. And that same year, I joined the summer program for 2020, and then this year. And then that's how I introduced Yolandi to the program, and here we are. So, yeah.
My question to the food justice presenters. Well, first, I want to thank the food justice presenters. Really appreciate the facts that you put together and the connections that you made. I think that that's so important. And I'm curious what changes you want to see in the community based on what you learned in your projects.
I would say just getting more affordable and better options to more of the community everywhere, not just in our little Austin area or New York City, but in more places than we know. Like what Haley said, it's happening more often than we know and happening constantly. And it's kind of put on like the back burner. So not many people know about it. So I'd just like to see it be talked about more, and then we could go from there and start making changes to bring healthy and affordable food to all of our community and all of society.
I completely agree. I like it to be like spread more, and like of course I want the wages to go up for the workers, and I'd like it to be like taught like at school, like even if it's just for like a day, just so people know about it. I think that would be important.
Yeah, I agree. I think getting people to be aware of the problem is like the first step, and then just focusing on getting resources to people, quickly when they need them before it continues to, grow into more of a problem. Just focus on kind of helping those people when they first need help.
I have a quick question for Kimberly and Yolandi. Now that you've written a letter like that, do you think that it's going to be easier that you guys now have the tools to write other letters in just related to other things that may bother you, even if it's not about school? Or do you think that you'll feel comfortable with writing letters like that moving forward?
I think personally, yes, because Yolanda and I recently went to a college trip not so long ago, and we had like a racist experience, and our school just gave us so much support to speak out about the situation because our feelings are valid and we felt, a certain way, and we all took action, and we actually spoke with like the vice principal or vice president of the college and like the diversity officer of the college. And so just having that conversation, like that uncomfortable conversation is needed for like change. So yeah, I don't know if Yolandi wants to add anything else.
Yeah, adding on, like me and Kimberly, like when we want to make a change, like we put the dedication on something. And I feel like in other problems, it would be easier for us to write more letters. And I agree with what Kimberly said.
This is a question for Kimberly and Yolandi for your letter, and then maybe also for Jalen and Allie with their Sped conversation with this classroom teachings. So the letter, has it also been addressed to like the board trustees of your school district? And is that something that, whether the letter and or speaking at a board meeting could be addressed at? I don't know if you've reached out to the board members of your school district.
So we're planning to like email them the letter, and we also have planned to have people co-sign the letter, so students, teachers, school staff, and then we also had a conversation with Christina about possibly setting up a meeting to actually talk about this and have people from our community to like speak out about the issue. And so hopefully that, starts conversations and connections about how we can fix this.
Adding on that, we feel that it's important to like include more people that are affected by the issue. So that's why we're trying to like get more people, like people to co-sign the letter too. So like the DOE knows that all of these people are being affected. This is something that should be prioritized.
And for me and Allie, we haven't contacted any people within that like district administration for AISD. But I think that could be like a really powerful next step moving on from like the conversation that we had, and bringing that into making advocating more specifically like in our own community, rather than just like into the void that is educators of the like large group that we gave our presentation to. So I think the letter that you guys wrote was a really like good way to do that, and might be something we'll like follow in your footsteps a little bit. Yeah.
All right. Oh, if there aren't any more questions, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break before beginning our next section. So if you want to grab any waters or snacks, we'll start in just a few minutes.
I do have one more question. So, and this might, and I'm tying this on with Yolandi's response, and then feel free for any of the ambassadors to kind of pipe in your thoughts of what Yolandi and Kimberly were talking about, getting more engagement and more people to, whether it's like petition or to add on to the letter, So how do you, as young people and high school students, what do you feel are the best resources and the best methods and means to get peer engagement on social issues like the topics that you are talking about? And whether that's peers and or adults, right? Like getting your parents or your neighbors or your teachers. But what do you feel like are the best means of like getting the people engaged and kind of bringing the awareness to their attention and to take action?
I would say speaking with our friends, like once we bring a topic up, it's something that we keep the conversation going. And also in our school, like the teachers and the counselors are really supportive. And if we want to talk about an issue, we know that we can always go to them for their support.
I guess social media. Like, I feel like it's something that we all use every day, but like we also have to like make sure our message is like getting across, like using the correct terms and like not offending anyone. Like that's like an important step to like, you know, like show the people you care about in your community about the topic you want to talk about. So, yeah.
I also think I know that me and some other ambassadors are on our school newspaper. So I think that could be a good outlet to express emotions or just like inform people on issues that you see in your community or where you live. So I think that could be a good way to talk about it.
All right, now we're going to move into that 2-minute break and we'll be right back to continue our presentation. Hi, everyone. If you want to turn your cameras on if you're comfortable, or say hi in the chat, we can go ahead and get started again right now.
Hello, should we start?
Yes, go ahead and get started.
Thank you. I think I will share. Hi, everyone. I'm Emmeline. I'm the founder of Brave Communities. And I am so impressed with everybody. One, I miss all like seeing the girls or the young ladies, and just love all the information that you're sharing and all the work that you're doing. And again, thank you, Christina, and thank you, Farmer Nancy, and thank you all for being here. Let me try to share my screen. I probably should have let the ambassadors have control because I'm not the best with technology. Let me see. You want to present? Is it?
Present is in the top right, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So just I love all the girls are talking about equity and all of our equity focused initiatives, which includes Brave Ambassadors. So Brave offers several different programs, and our bread and butter, our big heart goes to working with young women and non-binary. And so just kind of want to reiterate our programming. So our ecosystem of services really is to empower people, and this, specifically is for the Brave Ambassadors, to understand, unlearn, relearn, and process and take action on a personal and a collective space. And so we always want to collaborate and partner with existing organizations that have the heart for racial and social justice, and to collectively build a stronger community, through intercultural and intergenerational relationship building. And we do that by equipping people with the tools and resources to be lifelong equity-focused leaders and community advocates. And as we can see already with what the girls have done the past 2.5 or 3 months with their projects, really brings me hope, and I'm hoping that it brings you all hope too, of what, we can do on a small organization level, of just the power of this ambassador family, to what we can do in Austin and New York, to what we can do on a national and potentially global level, of just building these relationships and just bringing the awareness of what equity and the different injustices are, and how we as individuals and as a collective group can transform that. And so for next year, it's hard to believe that it's already December and that 2022 is coming upon us in a few weeks. So I just want to kind of overview things that we're going to focus on specifically for the ambassadors, but as well as Brave as an organization. And so, why am I not moving forward? Oh, there you go. So we're going to start off. MLK, or the Martin Luther King holiday weekend, is typically when Brave, I've been hosting MLK events since I was in maybe 9th grade. And so I know it's just a few years, but no, it's been a while, decades that I've been doing something for MLK. And so it's always been kind of like the initial program or project or a community event that I do with Brave. And so this year we're working with another organization based in DC called YSA. And so we are kind of a lead agency in the southern states to kind of help lead an MLK service project. And so right now, what we're wanting to do is empower young people through a book drive. And so we think when we can educate is to empower. And so what we're going to do is encourage people that have the resources to bring, drop off new or slightly used children's and young adult books. And we will also give lists, and the ambassadors will help do some research on figuring out who their local independent BIPOC women, LGBTQ owned bookstores are, so that we can also try to support these independent businesses, and then encourage community members to whether purchase or go to half-price bookstores, and then during MLK weekend we'll have a drop-off where they can drop off and really try to encourage representation matters and have diverse, multilingual books that we can then distribute to the vulnerable populations and younger people with more vaccination information and resources. And the reason we want to also include that is because in addition to what we've been working on with like food justice and education justice, we now want to really increase the messaging in an overall like community wellness engagement and outreach, and that'll include health justices. And so right now, especially, as we enter like 22 months of COVID, we want to continue our outreach through digital campaigns and then our monthly Brave community conversations. But really with the Brave ambassadors, we're really excited to start the spring semester with them now kind of doing more outreach. Like I think this fall term, they've been doing a lot more like personal journey and, discussing and then using how the anti-racist book. And then now it's like really using these skills and these tools to be able to influence and mobilize their peers and others, and even adults, to be the voice of reason of being more socially responsible and being equity-focused leaders. And so we want to get, more people vaccinated and or wearing masks in public, and just dispelling the misinformation that's shared, whether it's, on social media or through rumors and things like that. And then this is a great way for the ambassadors to be able to do research and continue the research, and then build on their leadership skills, and then really build a collaboration like amongst the ambassadors, but then also with their peers, and to be able to activate more young people to get more involved. And so that's really, it's a big project, but it's like the more that we are able to share, like our lived experiences, share our stories, share the information that we receive, and to be able to mobilize and influence other people. And then towards the spring term, the spring months, then there is a Global Youth Service Day. It's actually a weekend. So it'll be April 30th to May 1st. And then we'll be activating more young people through the influence and the leadership of the ambassadors to volunteer and serve for more community building activities. So we'll have more information on that. So that really is kind of our goals and our higher goals of 2022 for the spring term. And then other ways that we can get involved is right now we're working on trying to put our processes and systems in place. So we're creating a Salesforce and a database, and we want to really create an equity focus like membership and be part of the Brave family. So here's one ways that whether, I know that everyone here already is part of the Brave family and Brave members and receiving like newsletters. And these are just ways that if you want to share with your networks and your friends and families to how they can get more involved with Brave, whether it's here in Austin or in New York. And the beautiful thing about being in the digital space is that we, can include and be available and have conversations and communications, on that digital space. And then we're also looking into how do we have more meetings back in person, and how do we potentially expand to other cities when we meet back in person. So lots of planning going on right now, but here's different ways. And really, let me stop sharing. So the best ways that you can really get involved with Brave, I'm going to put up our link tree. It kind of shares a little bit of all the different links that you can be connected, whether you want to volunteer, you want to, learn more about the different like programs that we're highlighting is in our link tree, as I'm currently working on our new website too. So that'll hopefully come out soon in 2022 too. So here's more information that you can find on like memberships, and then on if you want to volunteer, if you want to let your friends and family know more about Brave. Did anyone have any questions?
Lots to look forward to in 2022.
Hi, I don't have a question, but can I just comment real fast? I'm Andrea, I'm Bella's mom. Hello to everyone. Thanks for letting me come in and be involved in seeing this today. I just wanted to say how impressed I am with all of you and how much I actually learned and am inspired on what you all taught me tonight. So thank you so much. It was just so wonderful, and listening to what's coming forth for the next year, how wonderful for I'm just so excited Bella's able to be involved. She's learned so much. She's been inspired by this, and now it seems like y'all are going to be able to put a lot into play for the next year. So I just wanted to introduce myself and say that. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you everyone for attending the showcase. There will be an audience survey that we will put in the chat right now. So thank you, Kim, for putting that in there. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you for listening and diving into what we talked about today and asking questions and being involved. But thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you, ladies, so much for helping to facilitate tonight. You guys did absolutely great. Let's all give Bella and Sophia hearty thumbs up, rounds of applause, and all that great stuff. I'm so proud of y'all. This was great, you guys. Y'all did a great job.
Yes,
great job.
Thank you for tonight's facilitators. Thank you, our tech support.
Yes.
Thank you for all of the work that you've put in so far, and looking forward to all that we have ahead of us. And in the meanwhile, just want to give a quick group reminder to the ambassadors that we will be meeting in 1 week at our usual time, 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern, to have our celebration and reflection end of 2021. Please fill out the panelist survey for tonight, and you'll see that in Google Classroom as well. So if you need to just, exit and chill, that's okay too. It will be on Google Classroom for you all. And thank you again for your wonderful work. Cheers.